Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, what if I told you that the secret to a thriving life wasn't tucked away in some self-help book, but in an advanced mathematical model? It sounds a little out there, I know, but today we're diving into this really surprising connection between pure numbers and our own potential to learn, adapt, and grow. So let's get right into it. If you were going to model human potential, you'd probably start with psychology, right? Or maybe philosophy. Well, today we're starting somewhere completely different, a mathematical model that was actually built to predict population growth. It's a weird place to start, for sure, but stick with me because it reveals something absolutely fundamental about the two paths we can take in life. So, can a formula really predict our potential? It sounds a little strange, but what we're looking at is something called a stochastic model. All that means is that it's a model that includes randomness, just like real life. And what it shows us is something incredibly profound. Growth isn't just a single straight line. It's more like a fork in the road, a choice between two very, very different paths. This research was looking at population growth in an environment that's always changing. And what it found is pretty wild. Under the exact same set of conditions, a population doesn't just have one single destiny. No, it can actually follow one of two completely different tracks, a high-growth path or a low-growth one. And the difference between these two paths is, well, it's night and day. The upper branch is all about high growth and resilience. Think of it like a thriving, robust ecosystem. But that lower branch, that's a state of low growth, of fragility, where you're really vulnerable to any little change. Two totally different outcomes from the exact same starting point. And that is the core ideal we're going to keep coming back to. Okay, so you might be thinking, math is cool, but what does this have to do with me? Well, this is where it gets super relevant to our own lives and our own ability to learn, to adapt, and ultimately to grow, to really thrive. Remember that lower branch, the one that's all about vulnerability and barely growing? Well, that's basically the mathematical equivalent of living in survival mode. You know that feeling. It's a state of constant stress, where all your energy is just spent trying to get by, not on getting ahead. In the world of positive psychology, they actually have a name for this. It's called languishing. It's not necessarily depression or some major illness, but it's that feeling of just stagnation, of feeling hollow or empty. It's the literal opposite of flourishing. And these graphs from the study show us exactly how this plays out. Now, don't worry about the complex math here. Just look at the graph on the left. See how that curve crosses the zero line twice in the positive zone? That means there are two possible paths for growth. That's our upper and lower branches. That is the mathematical condition for thriving. Now look at the graph on the right. A tiny little change in the conditions, and suddenly that curve never crosses into positive territory. There are no paths for growth. It's the mathematical picture of languishing. The conditions of our lives literally determine which paths are even available to us. All right, so if we want to get ourselves onto that upper branch, that thriving path, we need to be crystal clear on what the destination even looks like. What exactly is human flourishing? This idea, by the way, is not new at all. It actually goes all the way back to Aristotle and his concept of eudaimonia. And you should think of it as something more than just happiness. It's about being fully engaged, about using all of your potential. It's really the difference between just feeling good and doing good, functioning at your absolute best. And lucky for us, modern psychology has given us a roadmap. It's called the PERMA model, from the work of Martin Seligman. It tells us that a flourishing life is built on these 5 pillars: experiencing positive emotions, having deep engagement in what you do, nurturing strong relationships, finding a sense of meaning, and achieving a feeling of accomplishment. And when we bring this idea into our work lives, thriving really boils down to 2 key things: vitality and learning. It's that magic combo of feeling energized and alive in your work, and at the same time feeling like you're constantly learning, adapting, and growing. Okay, so enough with the theory, let's get practical. What are the real-world things, the parameters in our own life's equation that either put us on the path to thriving or hold us back? What determines which branch we end up on? Well, some great research from Simmons University points to 3 huge factors. First, your environment really matters. You need supportive leadership. But, and this is crucial, so does your own personal drive, your sense of agency. And finally, you need real, tangible opportunities to learn and to grow. And just listen to this quote from a survey participant. It just hits the nail on the head. Being viewed and recognized is perhaps the most important key to thriving for me. This just highlights a critical point. Thriving isn't just some internal feeling. It's fueled by getting that external validation and having concrete chances to learn and develop. And now for the flip side. These are the barriers, these are the parameters that can totally change our life's equation and make any positive growth feel impossible. Things like poor communication, toxic management, total organizational chaos, and even our own internal self-doubt. These are the things that can lock us into that lower branch of just languishing. So why does any of this matter? Well, because understanding this whole framework of thriving versus languishing isn't just some interesting academic idea. It has huge, tangible, real-world implications for our careers, our well-being, and even our organizations. So get this, the 2024 Thrive Index actually went out and measured how often employees feel like they're thriving. The score? 3.4 out of 5. Now, what that means is that it falls somewhere between some of the time and most of the time. So while a lot of us are doing okay, there is a massive opportunity for improvement. We're not languishing, but we're not exactly flourishing either. But here's the really good news in all of this. Thriving is actionable. It's not about luck. For us as individuals, it's about taking ownership of our own growth. For leaders, it's all about creating clarity and support. And for whole organizations, it's about actually investing in the resources that let people do their best work. And this brings us all the way back to where we started, with that mathematical model. Thriving isn't some destination you just arrive at. It's a dynamic process. The conditions around us are always changing, but we absolutely have the power to influence them. So the real question isn't just if you'll grow, but how. What conditions will you create for yourself and for the people around you to make sure you choose that upper branch?